Welcome to High School Academic Derby, brought to you by the Onslow County School System. Today we have a match between Richlands and Dixon. Our timekeeper for today will be Gail Thomas. Now let's meet our coaches and players. We'll start with Richlands, coached by Tiffany Rhodes. Her players for this round will be
Nathan Jilton, sophomore.
Alex Epley, senior.
Austin Futrell, senior.
Madison Franklin, senior.
The Dixon coach is Ashley DeMartin, and her players are
Jarrell, sophomore.
Brennan Treadwell, sophomore.
Jackson Lee, junior.
Aiden Yanko, sophomore.
Players. Your first toss-up in this round deals with American literature. Set at a boys' boarding school in New England during the early years of World War II, this novel shares the dark side of adolescence and a friendship between Alex.
A separate piece.
A separate piece is correct. For your bonus, identify the work of literature from which the following first lines or excerpts of first lines are taken. Number 1, in my younger and more vulnerable years, my father gave me some advice that I've been turning over in my mind ever since. Number 2, call me Ishmael. Number 3, you don't know about me without you having read a book by the name of The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, but that ain't no matter. Number 4, he was an old man who fished alone in a skiff in the Gulf Stream.
Okay.
Alex?
For 1, we have The Great Gatsby. For 2, we have Moby Dick. For 3, we have Huckleberry Finn, and we don't have anything for 4.
1, 2, and 3 are correct for 6 points. Number 4, Dixon?
We have no answers.
That's The Old Man in the Sea. Geography toss-up. This capital city is home to Barajas International Airport, to which Iberian capital located on the Manzanares River am I referring? Alex?
Madrid.
Madrid is right. For your bonus, identify the name of each European capital city from the country provided. Number 1, Denmark. Number 2, Greenland. Number 3, Belgium. Number 4, Bulgaria. Alex.
For 1, we have Amsterdam, and for 3, we have Brussels.
Brussels is correct for 2 points. 1, 2, or 4, Dixon?
No, sir.
Number 1 is Copenhagen. Number 2 is Nuuk. And number 4 is Sofia. Chemistry. What is the highest temperature at which it is still possible to liquefy a gas by increasing pressure? The answer is critical temperature. Grammar toss-up. Which verb tense indicates a continuous action that has been finished at some point in the past or that was initiated in the past and continues to happen? The action is usually of limited duration and has some current relevance. Madison.
Imperfect.
Incorrect. You want to try it, Dixon? It's the present perfect progressive. Presidents. This former Vice President of the United States sat out 2 terms and then was elected as the 37th President of the U.S. in 1968. Who was he? Richard Nixon is the answer. This next toss-up deals with the English monarchy. In July of 2013, Prince William and Kate, Duchess of Cambridge, gave birth to their first son. What given name did they select for their child? Alex?
George.
George is correct. And for your bonus, identify each of the following newsworthy events, people, or ideas. Number 1, as of 2014, the 2 U.S. states that claim the largest number of members in the U.S. House of Representatives. Number 2, Name the filmmaker and explorer who became the first person in 2012 to solo dive to the Mariana Trench in his vessel Deep Sea Challenger. Number 3, the gas used by the Syrian government against its civilians in the summer of 2013. And number 4, name the Catholic Pope who resigned in 2013, citing a lack of strength to resolve the conflicts facing his members. Alex.
For 1, we have California and New York. For 2, we have James Cameron. For 3, we have Tear Gas. And for 4, we have Paul.
Number 2 is correct for 2 points. Dixon, 1, 3, or 4?
For number 1, we have California and Texas. For number 4, we have Benedict.
1 and 4 are correct for 4 points. And number 3 is sarin gas. Chemistry. Which term from chemistry designates the part of an atom exclusive of its valence electrons? Alex.
Isotope.
Incorrect. Dixon? Jackson.
Ion.
It's called the kernel. Economics. In 1776, this economist advocated the principles of laissez-faire economics in his book, The Wealth of Nations. Identify this social philosopher who is considered the father of modern economics. Madison.
Adam Smith.
Adam Smith. For your bonus, identify each term from the field of economics. Number 1, the term used collectively for all the buildings, equipment, and human skills used to produce goods and services. Number 2, the market clearing price at which the quantity demanded by buyers equals the quantity supplied by sellers. Number 3, the factors that motivate and influence the behavior of households and businesses. Number 4, the human resource that assumes the risk of organizing other productive resources to produce new goods and services.
For 2, already.
Go ahead.
For 2, we have base price.
That's incorrect. Any of the 4, Dixon?
For 1, we have gross revenue.
Number 1 is capital. Number 2, the equilibrium price. Number 3, incentives. Number 4, entrepreneurship. Your next toss-up deals with oceanography. What type of landform begins as a volcano formed over a hot spot on the ocean floor? After the crust moves off the hot spot, the volcanic activity stops. Jackson.
Mid-ocean ridge.
Incorrect. Richlands. Austin.
An island.
The term we're looking for is seamount. Art toss-up. With which 19th century French romantic artist would you associate the painting Liberty Leading the People? Madison.
Monet.
Incorrect. Dixon. Delacroix. Vocabulary. Abridged, succinct, and terse are all synonyms for which 7-letter adjective that begins with a C? The answer is concise. You've got a math calculation coming up, so I'll be reading it twice for you. Find the value of the discriminant in the quadratic equation 5x squared minus 3x plus 4 equals 0. Find the value of the discriminant in the quadratic equation 5x squared minus 3x plus 4 equals 0. Brennan.
-71.
That's correct. For your bonus, identify each concept or perform each calculation related to polygons. Number 1, what type of polygon can pass the rubber band test, in which a line segment joining any 2 points on the polygon lies entirely inside the figure? Number 2, what adjective describes any polygon with congruent sides and congruent angles? Number 3, what is the sum of the interior angles, this is in degrees of course, the sum of the interior angles of an octagon? And number 4, what name is used for the segment from the center of a polygon perpendicular to a side? Jackson.
For number 1, we have ellipses, or ellipse. For number 2, we have equal. For number 3, we have 1080. And for number 4, we have tangent.
Number 3 is correct for 2 points. Richlands, 1, 2, or 4?
For 2, we have equilateral.
Number 1 is convex. Number 2, regular. And number 3 is apothem. That's the end of our first round. We'll come back with round 2 and our score in just a moment.
People think I'm trash, but they're wrong. Today I'm just an aluminum can, but one day I could be a stadium.
After one round, our score is Richlands 18, Dixon 8. We have new players to meet for both teams, and we'll start with those from Richlands.
May Keeley, senior.
Bailey Biggers, senior.
And from Dixon we have
Alan Patterson, senior.
Natalie Zanino, freshman.
your first toss-up players deals with U.S. geography. The National Baseball Hall of Fame is located in Cooperstown, New York, and the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame is in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Which Hall of Fame is located in Cleveland, Ohio? Alex.
The Football Hall of Fame.
Incorrect. Want to try it, Dixon? Jackson.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
That's right. For your bonus, identify each U.S. state or states located by the position described. Number 1, the state located due north of the northwest corner of the Oklahoma Panhandle. Number 2, 2 states located due south of Montana. Number 3, 2 states located due east of Wyoming. And number 4, the state located due north of Arkansas. Jackson.
For number 1, we have Arkansas, and for number 4, we have Kentucky.
Neither of those is correct. Any of the 4 Richlands?
For 1, we have Wyoming. For 2, we have Kansas and Nebraska. And for 4, we have Missouri.
Number 4 is correct for 2 points. Number 1 is Colorado. Number 2, Idaho and Wyoming. Number 3, South Dakota and Nebraska. Vocabulary. The words silhouette, guillotine, and boycott are all classified as which type of word named after the person who created or invented it? It's called an eponym. Famous phrases. According to Henry David Thoreau, the refusal to obey government policy or laws that are considered unjust, usually by nonviolent passive resistance, can be designated by which 2-word phrase? Bailey.
Passive aggressive.
Incorrect. Dixon? Jackson.
Peaceful protest.
Civil disobedience. Geography. Situated in the Sunda Strait, this island is the largest one that lies entirely in the Indonesian archipelago. Name this island known for its rainforests and rich wildlife. Brennan.
Indonesia.
Incorrect. Richlands. Bailey.
Philippines.
Sumatra. Okay, we've got a math term coming up here, so there'll only be one reading of this question. In which quadrant does an angle in standard position terminate if it measures -9 pi divided by 4 radians? Bailey.
2.
Incorrect. Dixon. Natalie.
3.
It's 4. Your next toss-up deals with scientists. This scientist is credited with the 1892 invention of the AC motor. Identify this Serbian-born electrical and mechanical engineer, perhaps better known for his unique high-frequency air core transformer. Jackson.
Nikola Tesla.
Tesla's correct. For your bonus, identify each famous scientist from the description given. Number 1, the Swiss-American who pioneered classification of fossil fish and originated the concept of the Ice Age. Number 2, the British scientist who pioneered antiseptic surgery. Number 3, the 2 scientists who shared the Nobel Prize for Medicine in 1962 for their work on DNA. And number 4, name the person who shared the Nobel Prize in 1903 with the Curies.
For number 4, we have Watson and Cricket.
Incorrect. Richlands?
For 2, we have Pasteur, and for 3, we have Watson and Crick.
Number 3 is correct for 2 points. Number 1 is Agassiz. Number 2, Joseph Lister. Number 3 is Becquerel or Becquerel. Poetry. Identify the poet who penned these lines. If I can stop one heart from breaking, I shall not live in vain. I can ease one life the aching, or cool one pain. Jackson.
William Shakespeare.
Incorrect. Richlands. Madison.
Poe.
Emily Dickinson. Got a calculation here, so I'll read this question twice for you. Give the Arabic numeral that is equivalent to the following Roman numeral: MCM XCVL. Give the Arabic numeral that is equivalent to the Roman numeral MCM XCVI. I'm sorry, XCVI. I said L the first time. That was incorrect. I'm going to read it one more time and give you additional moments. Give the Arabic numeral that's equivalent to the Roman numeral MCM XCVI. Jackson.
1996.
Correct. For your bonus, I will read a number expressed as a Roman numeral, and you give me the Arabic numeral represented. Number 1, MCM LXIV. Number 2, DXCI. Number 3, MCDXVI. Number 4, DLVIII.
For
Jackson.
number 3, we have 1,416.
That is correct for 2 points. Richlands, do you have any of the others?
For 4, we have 158.
Number 1 is 1,964. Number 2, 591. Number 4 is 558. Geography. This U.S. state, sometimes referred to as the Gem State, is also a shared home with the state of Oregon to the deepest gorge in America, Hell's Canyon. Name this state. May.
Washington.
Incorrect. Dixon? It's Idaho. Chemistry. In coordination chemistry, what type of an ion or molecule is attached to a metal atom by coordinate bonding? It's called a ligand. Literature toss-up. Night relates its author's experiences in World War II concentration camps, including Auschwitz. In what country was Auschwitz located? Alex?
Poland.
Poland's correct. For your bonus, I'll read the name of a work of literature and the word city or state. You identify from that the setting of the story. Number 1, the work is The Scarlet Letter. Give me the city. Number 2, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Give me the state. Number 3, the novel Brave New World. The state. And number 4, The Jungle. Name the city in which it takes place.
Okay.
Alex?
For 1, we have Salem. For 2, we have Massachusetts. For 3, we have Virginia. And for 4, we have New York.
None of those are correct. Dixon?
For number 1, we have Boston. For number 2, we have Pennsylvania. And that's all.
Boston is correct for number 1 for 2 points. Number 2 is New York. Number 3, the world state. Number 4, Chicago. That's the end of round 2, and we'll come back with our score in the lightning round right after this.
They're coming. Places, everybody.
Light check. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Everything looks good on our end.
And lights.
Come alive with the forest. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
After 2 rounds, we have a close game going with our score Richlands 24, Dixon 18. And Dixon has one new player we want to introduce.
Nick Sanders, sophomore.
All of the answers in our lightning round today will begin either with the letters CH or SH. CH or SH. Ready? A word that goes with cheddar. Austin.
Cheese.
Right. This animal can go from 0 to 60. Jackson.
Cheetah.
Correct. Applied to wet hair and used before. Jackson.
Shampoo.
Right. What a teacher says to a noisy class with finger to mouth. Austin.
Shh.
Right. A wind blank is a type of tubular bell. Jackson.
Chime.
Right. Clams, oysters, and hermit crabs. Austin.
Shells.
That's correct. Chemical element with atomic number 17. A musical ensemble of singers. Alex.
Chorus.
Correct. The dark space where light is blocked from its source. Nick.
Shadow.
That's right. To become or make smaller in size or amount. Jackson.
Shrink.
Correct. A written series of factual, often historical events ordered by time. Austin.
Chronology.
Correct. A winged angelic being. Alex.
Chimera.
Incorrect. Monkey that belongs to the ape. Jackson.
Chimpanzee.
That's correct. Area of ocean, sea, lake, or river that is not deep. Nick.
Shallow.
That's correct. To cut or tear into strips. Jackson.
Shred.
That's right. An illness that is persisting or long-lasting. Jackson.
Chronological.
Incorrect. Robin Hood and his merry men lived in Austin.
Sherwood Forest.
That's correct. Instead of a bath, take a Jackson.
Shower.
Correct. A decorative ceiling-mounted light fixture, often quite Madison.
Chandelier.
That's right. A small to medium-sized woody plant smaller than a tree. Jackson.
Shrub.
Correct. All right, the ones we did not answer correctly. A chemical element with atomic number 17 is chlorine. A winged angelic being is a cherub, and an illness that is persisting or long-lasting is called chronic. We'll come back with our final score right after this.
They said I couldn't dream. Called me a piece of trash and swore that's all I'd ever be. Said a bottle couldn't see the ocean. Give up. Go back to the dumpster. But I didn't listen. I made my way. And now, I am what I've always wanted to be.
Welcome back. In our closest match in quite a while, we had a tie at the end of the lightning round, and so we went to an off-camera tie-breaking procedure. After a series of timed toss-up questions, we were still tied, and the match was decided by one question in a sudden death format, and our winner today is Richlands by the score 42-40. Well done for both teams. Dixon will be back in just a few minutes to take on Jacksonville, so stay with us for that match.
Why I teach is because I love sharing the success with my students, whether it's them learning something new for the first time or a concept that they never thought that they would understand, and also when they get accepted into programs such as Governor's School or college or even receiving scholarships. I got into teaching because I had a high school math teacher who inspired me to teach. She was very fair in the way that she did things, and I just loved her class. I loved learning, and it's something that I wanted to be able to share with other students.
Welcome back to High School Academic Derby, brought to you by the Onslow County Schools. Our second match today is between Dixon and Jacksonville. Let's meet the players and their coaches, and we'll start with Jacksonville, coached by Tony Zernheld. The players are
Lizzie Coleman, sophomore.
Owen Schnitzler, junior.
Brian Rush, senior. Hugh Nazat, senior.
Dixon's coached by Ashley DeMartin. Her players for this round are
Brennan Treadwell, sophomore.
Nick Sanders, sophomore.
Jackson Lee, junior.
Brandon Schmidt, junior.
We'll start with a science toss-up. During which decade of the 20th century did scientists use a dog to discover methods of treating diabetes with insulin? Hugh.
50s.
Incorrect. Dixon? Jackson.
The 30s.
The 1920s. Shakespeare. Which character in Shakespeare's The Taming of the Shrew arrives to wive it wealthy in Padua and eventually tames Catherine? Answer is Petruchio. Math. It's a term, so there'll only be one reading. Which type of reasoning in mathematics is used to reason from the general to the specific, as in geometric proof writing? That would be deductive. Geology. According to the geologic timetable, this time period comprised the Mississippian and Pennsylvanian periods of the Paleozoic era, from about 36 to 286 million years ago. Name this period. Nick. Cretaceous? Incorrect. Jacksonville. The Carboniferous. Art toss-up. This 20th century artist made it his habit to paint with his canvas on the floor because it helped him feel Hugh.
Jackson Pollock.
That's correct. For your bonus, identify each of the following people, places, or ideas from the arts. Number 1, the French forest often used by Impressionists for open-air painting. Number 2, the French town whose name completes the Claude Monet work's title, The Artist's Garden at blank. Number 3, name used to designate the female lead dancer in a ballet. And number 4, genre of art that expresses idealized rural existence, including works by Thomas Cole and Nicolas Poussin. Owen.
For number 2, we have Avignon.
Okay, that's incorrect. Dixon, any answers?
For number 2, we have Paris, and for number 3, we have Prima Donna.
No. Number 1 is Fontainebleau. Number 2 is Giverny. Number 3 is Prima Ballerina. And number 4, Pastoral. Vocabulary. What is the 6-letter noun beginning with the letter H that designates an inexpensive lodging house for European travelers? Owen.
Hostel.
Hostel is right. And for your bonus, base your answer on the given definition and part of speech. From that, give me the proper word. All right, we're looking for a noun, and it's a poem or composition in which certain lines or letters in each line form a word or words. Number 2, a noun. It's a style of attire characteristic of a period or country. Number 3, a noun. It is a position of supposition assumed to be true without proof. And number 4, also a noun, one who professes ignorance or a lack of knowledge, especially in religion. Owen.
For number 1, we have acrostic, and for number 4, we have Philistine.
Number 1 is correct for 2 points. Dixon, 2, 3, or 4?
For number 3, we have theorem, and for number 4, we have agnostic.
Agnostic is also correct for 2 points. Number 2 was costume, and number 3 is a postulate or an axiom. Vocabulary. Complete the following analogy. Philatelist is to stamps as blank is to coins. Jackson.
Mint.
Incorrect. Jacksonville. Numismatist. U.S. history. Under President Abraham Lincoln, he served as the Secretary of the Treasury. Identify this politician and jurist who also was the 6th Chief Justice of the United States. His name was Salmon P. Chase. Science. Prior to the demise of dirigibles and aerostats in the early 1900s, this gas was used. Brian.
Helium.
Incorrect, and I'll read it from the beginning for Dixon. Prior to the demise of dirigibles and aerostats in the early 1900s, this gas was used as the lifting agent. Name, Jackson.
Hydrogen.
Hydrogen is correct. For your bonus, name each of the following gases from the description given. Number 1, the hydrocarbon that forms 90% of natural gas. Number 2, the gas that may result in the bends if a scuba diver returns to the ocean's surface too quickly. Number 3, the noble gas with radioactive properties linked to contamination in newly constructed airtight homes. And number 4, the toxic gas whose chemical formula is C2N2. Jackson.
For number 1, we have oxygen. For number 2, we have nitrogen. For number 4, we have carbon dioxide.
Number 2 is correct for 2 points. Jacksonville, 1, 3, or 4.
For number 1, we have methane.
That's also correct for 2 points. Number 3 is radon. And number 4 is cyanogen. Literature toss-up. This American author grew up in New England under the influence of Emerson and Thoreau prior to beginning her own writings. Name this author whose works include Flower Fables, The Mysterious Key and What It Opened, and Joe's Boys. Lizzie.
Louisa May Alcott.
That's correct. For your bonus, identify each of the following female authors. Number 1, the Chinese-American author who wrote The Joy Luck Club. Number 2, the 1938 Nobel Prize winner who began her career with a novel about the Chinese culture. Number 3, she authored best-selling suspense novels including Where Are the Children? And number 4, this author lived as a minimum wage earner to research her novel, Nickel and Dimed, on not getting by in America. Owen.
For number 1, we have Amy Tan, and for number 2, we have Pearl Buck.
Those are both correct for 4 points. Dixon, 3 or 4?
No, sir.
3 is Mary Higgins Clark, and number 4 is Barbara Eichenreich. Math, it's not a calculation, so again, there'll just be one reading of it. What adjective is used to describe numbers such as 6, 28, and 496, which are equal to the sum of their proper positive divisors? Jackson.
A perfect number?
That's correct. For your bonus, name each number or identify each of the following associated with numbers. Number 1, the set of numbers that includes pi and e. Number 2, the ancient mathematician who developed a sieve for finding prime numbers. Number 3, the mathematician associated with a famous last theorem that states no 3 positive integers a, b, and c can satisfy the equation a to the n plus b to the n equals c to the n for any integer value of n greater than 2. And number 4, give me the largest prime number less than 1,000. Jackson.
For number 1, we have rational. For number 2, we have Archimedes. And for number 3, we have 997.
None of those are correct. Jacksonville, any of the 4?
For number 1, we have irrational. For number 2, we have Aristophanes. For number 3, we have, how do you pronounce it? Fermat. And for number 4, we have 997.
Those are all correct for 10. 997 was correct, but you gave it as answer 3 instead of answer 4. That's the end of our first round. We'll be back with the score and round 2 in just a moment.
All right, you ready for some baseball trivia?
Let's do it.
What year produced the most no-hit games in the big leagues?
7 no-hitters in 1990.
Wow, that's right. Now a question that's not trivial. How many children will witness bullying this year?
Huh.
The answer? 3 out of 4.
75%?
That's
Wow.
right. How many of them will say something?
Kids want to help, but don't know how. Teach them how to stop bullying and be more than a bystander at stopbullying.gov.
After one round, our score is Jacksonville 24, Dixon 9. We have a couple of new players to meet for each team. We'll start with those from Jacksonville.
Minnie Arcott, senior.
Roman Peterson, junior.
And from Dixon we have
Natalie Zanino, freshman.
Alan Patterson, senior.
Okay, players, we're going to start with a toss-up from world history. Best historical evidence indicates that this Viking established the first Norse settlement on the island of Greenland during the year 9... Brian.
Eric the Red.
Correct. For your bonus, name the century during which each of the following events took place. Number 1, the California Gold Rush. Number 2, Mount Vesuvius erupts and destroys Pompeii. Number 3, Tenochtitlan is founded by the Aztecs. Number 4, the War of the Roses. Owen.
For number 1, we have the 19th. For number 2, we have the 1st. For number 3, we have the 12th. And for number 4, we have the 16th.
1 and 2 are correct for 4 points. Dixon, 3 or 4?
For number 3, we have the 16th.
Number 3 is the 14th century, and number 4 is the 15th century. Anatomy. Known as the master gland, this gland of the body controls all other glands and is particularly associated with growth hormone production. Jackson.
Hypothalamus.
Incorrect. Jacksonville. Brian.
Pituitary.
Pituitary. For your bonus, identify each body part. Number 1, the region in the back of the mouth that allows for passage of food and air. Number 2, the body part that covers the trachea or windpipe during swallowing. Number 3, the muscular wall that divides the heart lengthwise. Number 4, the main nerve trunk of the parasympathetic nerve. Owen.
For number 1, we have trachea, and for number 2, we have epiglottis.
Epiglottis is correct for 2 points. Dixon, 1, 3, or 4?
For number 1, we have esophagus.
Number 1 is the pharynx. Number 3, the septum. Number 4, the vagus nerve system. Physical science. Among levers, which type is demonstrated when the input force is between the fulcrum and the output force? Brian.
Third class.
That's correct. For your bonus, identify each of the following also associated with levers. Number 1, the 4 basic parts of a lever. Number 2, the class of lever that will help speed up the movement of resistance, even though a large amount of effort will still need to be used. Number 4, the class of lever that is demonstrated by the tricep muscle in the arm. And number 4, name for the ratio of the input force to the output force when using a lever. Owen.
For number 2, we have the 1st, and for number 3, we have the 2nd.
Neither of those is correct, Dixon. Any of the 4?
No, sir.
Number 1, beam, fulcrum, force, and resistance. Number 2 is class 3. Number 3 is class 1. Number 4 is called the mechanical advantage. Math calculation, so I'll read it twice for you. Determine the next term in the following alphabetic sequence that begins M, P, S, V. Determine the next term in the following alphabetic sequence that begins M, P, S, V. Brian.
X.
Incorrect. Dixon? Jackson?
Y.
Y is correct. For your bonus, determine the next two terms, that's two, of each of the following sequences, whether they are alphabetic or numerical. Number one, the sequence is A, D, G, J. Number two, 18, -3. 28, -9. 38. Number four, B, F, C, I, D, L. And number four, Z, W, T, Q. Jackson.
For number one, we have M, and for number four, we have N.
Okay, neither of those is correct, Jacksonville.
For number two, we have -15 and 48.
That is correct for 2 points. Number one is MP. You had to give two terms. Number three, E and O. And number four, N and K. Literature toss-up. During which war was the historical epic The Last of the Mohicans set? Owen.
French and Indian War.
Right. For your bonus, identify each of the following relating to The Last of the Mohicans. Number one, title of the series of which this novel is a part. Number two, the name of the young Calvinist attempting to carry Christianity to the frontier through the power of his song. Number three, name the villain, a Huron chief who is ostracized for excessive drinking. And number four, name Uncas' father, one of the two surviving members of the Mohican tribe. Owen.
Nothing.
No answers. Dixon.
Yes, sir.
Leather Stocking Tales for number one, David Gammett for number two, Magua for number three, and Chingachgook number four. Geography. This North Italian city serves as the capital of the Lombardy region and is the theoretical economic capital of Italy. Identify this city made famous for fashion Italian style. Natalie.
Milan.
Correct. For your bonus, identify each world city. Number one, capital of the United Arab Emirates. Number two, city in north-central Ukraine that was the site of a nuclear disaster in 1986. Number three, the capital of Bangladesh. Number four, the capital of Alberta, Canada. Jackson.
For number two, we have Chernobyl.
That's correct for two. Jacksonville, 1, 3, or 4?
For number one, we have Abu Dhabi.
That is also correct for 2 points. Number 3 is Dhaka. Number 4, Edmonton. Spelling. In the sentence, in the shadows, we could barely discern the intruder's silhouette. What is the correct spelling of the word silhouette? The answer, sorry, time's run out. The answer is S-I-L-H-O-U-E-T-T-E. Science toss-up. In physics, which term designates the tendency of a force to cause or change the rotational motion of a body? It is represented by the Greek letter tau. Brian.
Torque.
That's correct. For your bonus, identify each term from the field of science. Number 1, what device in a nuclear reactor regulates the rate of the reaction? Number 2, what is the force called that is necessary to balance a resultant force? Number 3, what is the term for the gravitational attraction of the Earth for an object? And number 4, what do we call the process of breaking a single vector down into its component parts? Owen.
For number 2, we have vector force, and for number 4, we have resultant vectors.
Incorrect. Dixon.
Number 3, we have gravitational pull.
Gravitational pull or weight, either one of those would be correct for 2 points. Number 1, the control rods. Number 2, equilibriant. And number 4, resolution. That's the end of our second round. We'll come back with the score and our lightning round in just a moment.
Son, tell him that I've begun to dream of things to come, and tell the trees not to look for me. I'm going to find some peace of mind. Wake the sun. Wake the sun, wake the sun, wake the sun.
And after 2 rounds, our score is Jacksonville 44, Dixon 17. We have a new player to introduce for both teams before we start the lightning round, and we'll start with Jacksonville.
Monty Arcott, freshman.
And for Dixon, we have
Aiden Yanko, sophomore.
We'll have 2 minutes or 20 questions in the lightning round, whichever comes first. All of the answers will start either with the letter F or the letters PH. That's F or PH. Blank of the opera. Jackson.
Phantom.
Right. Ruler in ancient Egypt. Brian.
Pharaoh.
Correct. To put together out of artificial or natural components. Hugh.
Fabricate.
Correct. Physically weak. Jackson.
Feeble.
Correct. An intuition of evil to come. Jackson.
Foresight.
I'll accept that. Term for an unwarranted fear of an object. Jackson.
Phobia.
Correct. Aristotle, Plato, and Socrates were, Brian.
Philosophers.
Correct. Left unplowed and unseeded during growing season. Brian.
Field.
Incorrect. Long, narrow depression in a surface. Aiden.
Fissure.
Say it again.
Fissure.
Correct. Part of the throat between the mouth and the esophagus. Aiden.
Pharynx.
Correct. Colorful game bird. Brian.
Pheasant.
Right. An exact copy or reproduction. Brian.
Photocopy.
Incorrect. A stroke of good luck, a flatworm, or the tail of a cetacean. Jackson.
Fluke.
Correct. Give a false appearance of. Aiden.
Fox.
Say it again.
Fox.
No. Bringing death. Aiden.
Fatal.
That's correct. The ability to hear, identify, and manipulate phonemes. Aiden.
Phonetics.
Correct. Place to get prescriptions filled. Brian.
Pharmacy.
Correct. The quality of being faithful. Jarrell.
Faithfulness.
Incorrect. Excessive and insincere praise. Hugh.
Flattery.
Right. A rare or significant fact or event. Okay, the ones we did not get correct. Left unplowed and unseeded during growing seasons, the term is fallow. An exact copy or reproduction, we were looking for facsimile. To give a false appearance of is to feign or fake something. The quality of being faithful is fidelity, and a rare or significant factor event is a phenomenon. We'll come back with our final score right after this.
Why I teach. I got into teaching to make a difference in my students' lives. It's also my passion. I believe that when students enter my classroom, it's my job to make sure that they have an advocate here at Dixon High School. I think that when students come into a classroom and they know they can be themselves, it makes them better scholars. I also think it's great that I get to geek out every day and teach history. It's really great when both careers and passions come together.
And our final score today is Jacksonville 60, Dixon 39. Academic Derby is a locally funded production of the Onslow County Schools. Please join us for our next pair of matches in which both of these schools will again be involved. Dixon will take on Southwest and Jacksonville will play Swansboro. That's next week on High School Academic Derby.